Good morning everyone, today we're going to be talking about multi-weapons, specifically the Kaiser weapons, because I finally have all the pieces to make my own Kaiser multi-weapon. But before we jump into all of that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So the very first thing I want to show off is my Kaiser weapon. As you can see, it is fully augmented, fully enhanced, potential is max, everything is good to go. So in order to make a multi-weapon, you will need a second weapon of the same series. So in my case, I will need another Kaiser weapon to fuse together in order to make the multi-weapon. However, for the Kaiser weapon specifically, there is a workaround, as you can use an MK1 weapon as a replacement. So this is what we're going to be doing in today's video. I will be fusing a Kaiser wired lance with my katana. Now something to keep in mind is I cannot actually equip wired lances. As you can see, the Kaiser wired lances actually requires you to play a hunter in order to equip this weapon. So under normal circumstances, I would not be able to equip that weapon as I am playing a braver and a force. I don't have a hunter subclass or a main class. But this is the power of multi-weapons. You're actually able to use weapons that you're not supposed to be able to use. However, there is some limitations to this. You are limited to the normal attack as well as the weapon action. So this is why I will be fusing the wired lances into my katana, because I do want the wired lances weapon action as it is a gap closer. You simply hook onto the enemy and you will fly towards them. It's very Attack on Titan-esque, so this is why I'm going to be using the wired lances. So with that being said, let us buy our MK1 Kaiser wires over here. I'm going to go to my material storage. You can see that it will cost 30 ARCS record badges in order to obtain one of these MK1 weapons, and confirm, and boom. So now you can see I have a Kaiser wire MK1. However, as you can see, there's a big X over here, which basically means I cannot actually equip the weapon. However, we're going to head over to the item lab right here. We're actually going to do multi-weapon, and we're going to select the Kaiser katana as the main weapon. This is very important. So during the base item selection, this is the base item, which means you will keep the attack as well as your augments and your potentials, okay? So it's very important that you select the right one. If I accidentally select the Kaiser wired lances, the MK1 over here, I will actually lose all of my augments, lose my damage, and lose my potential over here. So you need to make sure that you select the correct item for the base item selection, all right? So in our case, it's going to be the Kaiser katana. And next up is the material item selection. This is the secondary weapon, which is going to be fused together with your primary weapon, and you're going to be able to inherit its normal attacks as well as its weapon actions if you're not playing that specific main class or subclass. However, let's say that I do change my subclass to a hunter, then I'll gain access to all of the different photon arts that the hunter can do with the wired lances. And another thing to keep in mind is the material item does not need to be enhanced, does not need to have augments, does not need to be upgraded at all, okay? So I'm going to click this, click yes, and you can see over here that it will cost a little bit of money, 350,000 as well as 70 photon quartz. So we're going to click yes, and boom, Kaiser katana complete with the multi-weapon. So you're going to notice that my wired lances have disappeared, but when I go to the second page over here, you're going to see multi-weapon, katana, and wired lance. So now you'll notice when I go to my weapon palette and I equip my Kaiser katana, I actually have access to my wired lances. However, as you can see, I am limited to my normal attack as well as my weapon action because I do not have the hunter subclass or main class. However, that's not a problem because I am using the wired lances solely for the weapon action. So you can see here that I actually put the wired lance weapon action onto my slot 7 on my sub palette, so I can access the wired lances at a push of a button. And the main reason why I like these wired lances is because you can target something over here. Let's say that this target's really far away and I can just do that and bam, I use it as a gap closer. I get really close to the enemy and immediately I'm in melee range and I can attack them and destroy them very, very easily. It's a free movement ability. However, the wired lance weapon action is not limited to just going forward. You can actually use it to gain verticality. As you can see against this Snorok, I really hate fighting this guy as a melee because he always flies really high into the air. So sometimes I'll get knocked down here. I'm like, oh, how do I get back up? I got to double jump. It's very annoying. But now with the wired lances, I can simply just weapon action, boom, and I can get verticality very, very easily, get up to their weak points, and just do damage. So this is why I really value the wired lances, because boom, look at that. Makes it super easy to reposition to get up to where I want to be instead of just like hanging around at the bottom as I see the boss fly around. Now, a common question I get is, Kero, you just fused an MK1 weapon with your Kaiser weapon. what happens to the damage? Does it inherit the Kaiser weapon's damage or the MK1's damage? And I'm here to show you that it will inherit the Kaiser's weapon's attack if you use it as the base weapon. Just to prove it to you, you can see over here that my attack is 671. And if we look over here, if you were to use an MK1 weapon, your damage would be 651 instead of 671. Now don't be concerned that it says Kaiser Wire over here, because all of the Kaiser series have the same damage. So as you can see here, I switched it back to a katana, and you can see the MK1 weapon has 651 while the Kaiser katana has 671. So again, I just want to stress, if you are creating a multi-weapon, the base weapon has to be your Kaiser weapon and not the MK1 weapon. The material has to be the MK1 weapon, and the material will always inherit whatever the base weapon stat is. But there are limitations to multi-weaponing. They have to be of the same series. So you can't multi-weapon a Kaiser katana with like a rugged rod, for example, because those are two different weapon series. One is Kaiser, the other is rugged. So you need to make sure they are of the same weapon series in order to multi-weapon anything. And last but not least, I want to talk about the augments themselves. You can see that my wired lance has now inherited all of these augments as well. So that means my wired lances also gain 10.3% melee potency. This is very important because you don't want to multi-weapon different damage types together. As you can see here, it is possible to multi-weapon a katana with a bow or with a rod or with other damage sources. As you can see from the little picture, yellow means it is technique damage, while blue means it is range damage. So you need to make sure that if you are planning to multi-weapon, let's say your katana with a bow, that your augments over here will cater to both damage types that you're using, or else you'll have a very skewed weapon. So for example, let's say that I multi-weapon with a bow. Well, unfortunately, my bow will only get 2.5% range potency because my augments are very skewed towards the melee potencies. So if you are planning to multi-weapon two separate damage types, you will need to make sure that you have the right augments that will cater to that playstyle. Now, for those who don't know where to get the fusion capsules, all you need to do is come to the item lab, go to exchange enhancement materials, and go to augment capsules. If you scroll down about halfway through the list, you can see there's a whole bunch of special capsules over here, which are fusion capsules. But if you're going for fusion capsules and you're trying to balance between melee and range damage, I would recommend this soul over here because it's 10 HP, 3 PP, melee and range potency plus 2.5%. But understand that you are going to need a bunch of capsules as well as the fusion capsules in order to create this. So in most cases, if you're building a mixed damage set, it will cost you more Meseta as well as resources compared to just making one specialized build. But as I showed you earlier, depending on your personal playstyle and your needs, making a multi-weapon can definitely make your life a lot easier. So in my case, I had a problem with verticality because bosses would fly up into the air and I couldn't reach them. Well, the wired lance weapon action solved that problem for me. And you might have an issue that a specific weapon action can actually resolve. So this is where the multi-weaponing comes into play. So in conclusion, if you are making a multi-weapon, make sure that your primary weapon or the main weapon that you want to keep all the stats as well as the augments is the base weapon. And then whatever weapon you use as the material does not need to be enhanced, does not need augments, does not need anything. It will automatically inherit everything from the base item. Now that includes all of the augments. So if you are multi-weaponing two different damage types, make sure you have the augments that is suited for your two different damage types, aka the fusion capsules.
Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.
What can I say except you're welcome for the